Hello, I'm Antonio Mora. This is the News and News.com Day in Brief on Friday, March 15th at about 7 p.m. A massacre at two mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand's third largest city, has left 49 dead and 48 injured, some severely. The normally peaceful country's prime minister spoke forcefully, saying it was one of the country's darkest days and that New Zealand's gun laws will change. One man has been charged with murder and is scheduled to make a court appearance at any time now. Two other armed suspects are in custody as police try to determine what role, if any, they played. Disturbingly, the shooter live-streamed the massacre in horrifying detail. The suspected terrorist is an Australian citizen and immigrant-hating white supremacist who posted a long, hate-filled diatribe online where he said he carried out the attack to, quote, directly reduce immigration rates to European lands and to show the invaders that our lands will never be their lands. He referred to President Trump once as a symbol of renewed white identity. Trump critics pounced, pointing fingers at the president, saying words have consequences. The White House called that outrageous. More on that later. Trump wielded his veto pen for the first time this afternoon, overruling the congressional bill that attempted to overturn his declaration of an emergency along the Mexican border. He slammed what he called the, quote, Democrat-inspired resolution, which would open borders while increasing crime, drugs, and trafficking in our country, that was approved by the Senate yesterday by a 59-41 vote. A dozen Republicans joined Democrats in passing the bill, which had already been passed by the House. A senior North Korean official announced that her country is rethinking whether to continue nuclear talks with the U.S., threatening to resume missile and nuclear testing. She accused the U.S. of throwing away a golden opportunity and of taking a gangster-like stance, specifically attacking Secretary of State Pompeo and National Security Advisor Bolton, saying they created an atmosphere of hostility and mistrust at the Hanoi summit. However, she did not criticize Trump and said he and Kim Jong-un have good relations and, quote, the chemistry is mysteriously wonderful. It's not clear whether this is a negotiating tactic or whether the Kim regime is seriously considering halting denuclearization. Pompeo said he has every expectation that talks with North Korea will continue, and Bolton said the North Korean officials' comments were inaccurate. Still, it wouldn't hurt to constantly remind themselves that the Hermit Kingdom has negotiated in bad faith over and over again for decades. As investigators in Paris began analyzing the black boxes from the Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 MAX that crashed on Sunday, we learned that the plane's captain faced an emergency almost immediately after taking off from Addis Ababa. With panic in his voice, he asked to return to the airport. By that point, his aircraft was erratically oscillating up and down by hundreds of feet. All contact was lost 5 minutes after takeoff. A piece of the aircraft found at the crash site indicates that the jet was configured to dive. All 737 MAX planes worldwide have been grounded, and the FAA's close ties to Boeing are being questioned after the slow response this week in light of its similarities to the crash of a Lions Air 737 MAX in Indonesia in October. Miracle on the Hudson pilot Sully Sullenberger said a redesign of the 737 MAX was obviously and urgently needed after Lions Air, arguing that the fixes announced do not go far enough. U.S. airlines are scrambling to replace the planes and change their flight schedules. American Airlines alone had more than 80 737 MAX flights every day. Lawsuits are multiplying in connection with the worst ever college cheating scandal. One class action lawsuit focuses on 8 elite universities that accepted the children of parents involved in the scam. Another goes after the parents who used millions in bribes to get their kids into college, including actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin. The lawsuits claim that unqualified students were admitted while students who played by the rules were not. Loughlin was dropped by Hallmark and her daughter by Sephora, as a series of parents, coaches, and others have lost their jobs because of their alleged participation in the cheating. Another newly released transcript of House testimony is raising more questions about the connections between the Obama Department of Justice and the Hillary Clinton campaign. First, transcripts of testimony from former FBI lawyer Lisa Page indicated that the DOJ told the FBI to stand down on charging gross negligence over the handling of Clinton's emails. Now transcripts show that Page's one-time lover, former FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok, alleged that the DOJ negotiated a deal with Clinton's legal team that ensured the FBI would not have access to emails related to the Clinton Foundation. 2 rockets fired from Gaza flew over Tel Aviv late on Thursday, surprising Israel's military. Hamas reportedly claimed they were mistakenly fired during maintenance, and Israel agreed. However, 9 other rockets were reportedly fired at border towns inside Israel. The Iron Dome defense stopped 6, and the rest didn't cause damage. In response, Israeli warplanes hit more than 100 Hamas targets in Gaza. Hamas claims 4 people were wounded. The cross-border fighting seems to have calmed down. After the British Parliament approved a delay in Brexit beyond the March 29th deadline, if no deal is approved before then, the ball is now in the EU's court. The 27 other countries in the Union are likely to allow the extension because nobody wants to see the UK crash out of the EU in a way that could seriously disrupt the economy in all of Europe. But today, an EU document presented to ambassadors of member countries states that Brexit cannot be delayed beyond July 1st unless Britain takes part in the European parliamentary elections scheduled for the end of May. In our alternate universes segment, the great divide between conservative and liberal media might have been more about the great divide between CNN and almost everybody else this morning. CNN's New Day focused almost exclusively on the horror in New Zealand for its full 3 hours. During much of that time, the anchors kept trying to connect the man accused of the massacre with Trump. Undoubtedly, the murderer's manifesto saw Trump as a, quote, symbol of white identity, but the supposedly objective anchors were clearly implying that Trump had inspired him, repeatedly citing how the man's references to Muslims invading New Zealand echoed Trump's repeated comments about an invasion coming through the U.S.'s southern border. Most news organizations that lean left didn't go there this morning or did so cautiously. Those that lean right mostly ignored it. But then, in the veto ceremony, Trump opened the door wide for his critics. He said there was nothing less than an invasion by the U.S. of migrants. Didn't anyone at the White House tell him to avoid that language today? Then he said he didn't see a rise in white nationalism worldwide, despite plenty of evidence that it's a growing problem. How he cannot condemn white supremacists unequivocally is incomprehensible. Finally, all major U.S. stock indexes rose by at least 0.5 percentage point on Friday. Encouraging news on trade negotiations with China helped spur the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ to close at 5-month highs. We have all those stories and much more updated around the clock 7 days a week on newsandnews.com, where you will find all you need to know in one place. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the right of your screen just below this video. Please follow us on Facebook at Real News and News, and follow me on Twitter at AMoraTV. Have a great weekend. I will see you again on Monday.